Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to present to you a man whose great learning and veneration for truth are only exceeded by his high moral fiber and majestic presence. I consider introductions unnecessary, but if it is the custom to have them, I prefer to do the act myself, so I can get in all the facts. I was born modest, but it wore off. Now, I take pride that I am reputed to be extremely highly intelligent. In fact, my intelligent quotient, which as you know is a curve, is so high it goes right up to the top of the scale and then circles on down the other side and pops out again around idiot. Well, I was once presented to an audience by a lawyer who kept his hands in his pockets as he introduced me as Mark Twain, a humorist who was really funny. A rare creature indeed. While I was struck dumb by this complimentary thunderbolt, I never heard expressive compliments so beautifully phrased or so well deserved. But I observed he had something more unusual that day in the attendance than a lawyer who kept his hands in his own pockets. Lawyers, congressmen have a well-earned reputation for being able to talk excessively with all sorts of flowery language and certainties and spew outlandish facts that have no factual basis and opinions they assure us or everyone's whether we actually agree with them or not, and talk so as not actually to accomplish anything. The introduction droned on and on about my accomplishments to the point where even I got tired. If God had waited for a lawyer and a congressman to finish speaking before he proclaimed, "Let there be light," we'd still be in the darkness. But I do like compliments. We all do. Humorists, burglars, congressmen, all of us in the trade. The plan of the newspapers is good. If you can't get a compliment any other way, pay yourself one. I do that often. In fact, I can do that right now. I can state that there are two men who are most remarkable. Kipling is one, and I am the other. Between us, we cover all knowledge of things. Kipling knows all there is to know about anything, and I know the rest. Now, I want to thank you for attending the services tonight here. I nearly missed it myself. I came by the Flagler Railroad. It was one of those trains that gets tired every 7 minutes or so and has to stop and rest for a half an hour. One of the passengers advised the conductor to take the cow catcher off the front of the train and reattach it at the back of the train, because at the rate we were going, we were not likely to catch any cows, but there wasn't anything to prevent them from climbing aboard on the back. If I have to go to heaven by railroad, I shall go the other way. There was even a dog on board early in the morning and barked steadily at nothing all day long for the whole trip. I had never seen a dog of his kind before. It was one of those low dogs with very short legs, kind of like parentheses going the wrong way. It was made on the plan of a bench, really, and it seemed to be satisfied. But I thought the plan structurally weak on account of the distance between the front supports and the back of the supports. Seemed to me it would have been a stronger and more practical dog if there were more legs. I I didn't ask what kind of dog it was, although the owner seemed to be proud of it. Said it had taken prizes in dog shows. Said people had often stopped on the streets to look at it. Well, this did not seem strange to me. I could have told them that if you take a long, great, low dog like that and ride along in the street anywhere in the world and not charge money for it, people will stop and stare. Well, if I were built like that, I could take prizes myself. My wife, Olivia, God bless her, arrived in Fort Lauderdale together, but I was about to board the transit to come to this church. She asked me how much money I had. So I checked my purse, and I counted out exactly $47.02. She told me she would take the $47, thank you very much, and she would go to the Galleria Mall to go shopping. She told me to go without her to the UC Church and keep my 2 cents to myself. Particularly if anybody asked me for advice. Now, I had sometimes, and had originally spent some time at the Ocean Club pool, but discovered it was not a hall for pool, but merely holes filled with water for little kids to spend time swimming, splashing, drinking, wetting, and making a ton of noise. The noises coming from those youngsters was overwhelming, excessively loud and terrorizing as the screams of the cannibals I heard back in my days as a reporter on the Sandwich Islands. I could not, in all honesty, understand why some adult didn't take advantage of the opportunity to drown the damn little kids in the pool and give the rest of us old-timers some much-needed peace and quiet. Well, as a writer and a book publisher, I certainly did not pass up the opportunity to visit the Fort Lauderdale Public Library, spending a bit of time to note how many of my own works are on the shelves or how often they are taken out for reading. A few of my books, as you know, are considered classics. The word classic means that many people have a copy of the book, or at least know someone who has a copy, but all admit they never actually read it, or know anyone who actually has. The definition of classic must actually mean I'll get around to it someday. It's a book which people praise and figure someone else read so they don't have to. But I did happen to notice a copy of Tom Sawyer as well as a copy of Huckleberry Finn on the shelf. They were dusty, but I was pleased. Huck Finn has helped me make a tidy amount of money. Some libraries have banned it publicly. The moral crusaders in those towns proclaimed the book to be scandalous, controversial, racist, irreverent, lewd, and not fit for children. Whenever I hear that, I print up another 25,000 copies and usually sell them out in a week. I did find several copies of a recent series of books, Harry Potter, written by J.K. Rowling at the library. Oh, these look well read, and while the books may not be considered classics for years from now, they certainly seem to have been read by a lot of folk. Now, I decided that writing a series of books with the same characters is a guaranteed way of financial success, so I'm planning on a new book myself. The working title is The Further Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and Harry Potter on Star Trek with James Bond. A surefire sales spectacular, right? Now, since I'm in a building like this, I'll have to say something. Man is the only animal that has the true religion. Several of them. Separate religions with separate heavens and separate prayers and rules to get to heaven by denying the actual heavenly pleasures of this world. People should realize that of all the delights of the world man cares for the most is sexual intercourse. The human being, like the immortals, naturally places this far away above all the other joys. The very thought of him excites him. Opportunity sets him wild. In this state he will risk life, reputation, everything, even his chance to reach heaven itself, to make good that opportunity and ride it to the overwhelming future. He will go to any length for it, risk fortune, character, reputation, and what do you think he has done? He's left it out of heaven. Prayer takes its place. Eternal prayer. What a dreary way to spend eternity. Not much of an incentive to be good. Aren't we taught that God is love? Well, if the deity had only replaced a portion of eternal prayer time with that other time, imagine how many people would be happy to die and go to heaven. Man was made at the end of the root's work, when God was tired. But such is the human race, and often it seems a pity that Noah didn't miss the boat. So many churches, so many variations of the same message. Now there was a man who died, and St. Peter welcomed him to Heaven's Hotel and asked him what denomination he was, and the man replied, Baptist. So St. Peter escorted him to room 12, but asked them to keep quiet when they passed room 2. And another man died, and St. Peter, finding that the man was a Methodist, escorted him to room 14, but told him to hush as they passed room 2. And a Lutheran couple died, and Peter led them to room 7, but told them not to make any noise when they passed room 2. And finally, a Mormon man and his 3 wives were killed in a camel accident. And St. Peter walked them to room 23, but advised them to keep silent as they passed room 2. One of the wives turned and asked, why? Who was in room 2? And St. Peter told them, that's for the Catholics. They think they're the only ones here. To put human life simply, birth is the beginning. Life is merely the journey, and death is the final destination. We all share that equally. And there is not a person amongst us who at one time or another has not wanted to help some other person take a shortcut on their journey through life and get them to their final destination as quickly as possible. I know one man, Jim Bushwell. He spent his entire life diligently trying to acquire the heavenly life. And after Jim died and reached heaven, wouldn't you know, the very first person he met up there was one he was avoiding and hoping to avoid and would be seeing that time in hell. Jim was so disappointed and outraged, he inquired about the way to hell, picked up his suitcase and left. So there you have it. Heaven for climate, hell for society. Now, human minds are complicated, whereas animal minds are simple, and therefore sharp. Animals never spend their time dividing experience into little bits and speculating about the bits they missed. The whole panoply of the universe is expressed to them as an animal as A, things to mate with, B, things to eat, C, things to run away from, and D, rocks. This frees the mind from unnecessary thought and gives it a cutting edge where it matters. No animal, in fact, never tries to walk and chew gum at the same time. Humans, on the other hand, think about all sorts of things around the clock and all sorts of levels, with interruptions from dozens of biological calendars and timepieces. There's thoughts to be said and private thoughts, and real thoughts, and thoughts about thoughts, and the whole gamut of unconscious thoughts. To a telepath, the human head is a din. It's a railway terminus with everyone talking at once. But good judgment comes from experience, which you get from bad judgment. So I find it's good to get your mistakes done early. I don't believe in personal improvement. Every improvement you make just creates new problems. That's my philosophy. Life is hard. That's just how it is. You can read all the books you want, and meditate, and reduce stress, and lose weight. But the fact is that life is rough. Good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes caused by bad judgment. So the smarter you get, the less you learn, and eventually, when you think you finally got it figured out, you realize you don't know a thing. Trust me, I got plenty of experience. Now, the Supreme Being wanted me to let you know that your many, many messages and verbal pleas have been received. They are all heard. But I have to remark to you that God's last name is not David. The biggest surprise I had when I first landed in heaven was to discover that the very creator of the universe, the solar system, our own little planet, does not in the least resemble an omnipotent and wise old human being, but is actually a large dog. The dog's name is Lordy, a fine and fitting name for a dog for the Supreme Being. Many of my southern friends have unwittingly called on her simply by crying out, "Oh, Lordy." When you think about it, we should have all realized that God is a dog. Goodness is about what you do, not what you pray to. Now, I was hoping that would be wine. Lordy's mother. She's a good dog and smart. It seems our early religious writers may have been aware of the great dog, but were dyslexic, and they spelled it backwards in the first religious book. It's a bit of an embarrassment to the great dog ever since. When you think about it, it's perfectly obvious that a dog created the earth, since it is round like a ball and does shake occasionally. It's also something dogs like to play with. Besides being man's best friend, and the great dog made sure there were humans on the planet to be companions to dogs. I am not only certain that a dog is man's best friend, but I found I can absolutely prove it through scientific, peer-reviewed experimentation. And the experiment goes like this. First, you get yourself a large box, and you bring it over here, and you set it down like a steam drum. And then you open the lid. And then you go and get your dog, bring him over, come here, Lordy, get him in, and put him in the box. Then you go over and you get your wife, and walk her over, and you put her in the box too. And then you need one more thing, so you goes and gets your mother-in-law, and you pull her over, and you put her in the box too. Then you close the lid, and you sit down on it for about a half an hour, or 45 minutes while you smoke a cigar. Now, when you get up and you open the lid, who's going to be happy to see you? Man's best friend. Oh, Lordy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you don't mind if I smoke. I believe there is some commandment against smoking when you're an insurrection of this dignified nature, but I'm trying to get it removed. Mind you, attention to abstinence just as long as it doesn't harm anybody. I practice it on myself on occasion. I make it a rule never to smoke when I'm asleep. It's not I care for moderation myself. I just do it as an example for others. I have to prove that I am not a slave to the habit. I can give it up any time I want. In fact, I've done it 1,000 times. First time I gave it up, I was a boy, about 10 or 11. They told me I would shorten my lifespan by 10 years by smoking, so I got scared and gave it up for one day, for 2 or 3 hours. Then I finally decided that the decade wouldn't be worth living without me smoking in it, so I went back to lighting a cigar again, and that's the end of that. Another time I gave it up on the advice of my doctor. I've been confined to my bed for several days with a lumbago, and the doctor finally said, "Twain, my remedies haven't got a chance, considering they've got to fight against all against that besides the lumbago. You smoke extravagantly, you eat all manner of things that don't agree with each other's company, and you drink 2 large tumblers of scotch every night, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, but I only drink them as a preventative for the toothache. I've never had a toothache. I don't intend to ever have a toothache." And he said, "That's all right, but we can't make any progress that way. You have to moderate those things." I said, "I can't do that, doctor." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I lack the willpower. I can cut it off entirely, but I can't moderate it." "Well," he said, "that will have to do." So I cut off all those things for 2 days and 2 nights, and at the end of the time, the lumbago was discouraged and left me. I was a well man again, so I gave thanks and took to these delicacies once more and lit me a cigar. Well then, I had an occasion to recommend this remedy to an elderly lady friend of mine. She'd gone down, down, down to the point where medicines had no healthful effect on her. So I told her I could cure her in a week. I said she must give up smoking and drinking and eating and swearing. And by the end of the week, she'd be on her feet. She sadly replied she couldn't give up smoking and drinking and swearing because she had never done those things. So there it was. She neglected her habits. Why, she was like a sinking ship with no cargo to throw overboard. Why, just 1 or 2 little bad habits would have saved her. What a shame. Smooth. When I was 12 years old, the summer came and brought with it an epidemic of measles. For a time, a child died every day in another death. The village was paralyzed with fright, despair, distress. Children that were not smitten with the disease were imprisoned in their homes to save them from the infection. Life on those miserable terms was not worth living, and at last I made up my mind I'd get the disease and have it over with one way or the other. I escaped from the house and went to the house of a neighbor, where a playmate of mine was very ill with the malady. When the chance offered, I crept into his room and got into bed with him. I was discovered by his mother and sent back to captivity, but I had the disease. They could not take that from me. I came near to dying, but I can tell you now, I didn't. This was the turning point of my life. For when I got well, my tired mother closed my school career and apprenticed me to a printer. A young printer wanders around a good deal seeking and finding work and seeking again when necessity commands. Over the next few years, I often wind up getting experience in a variety of trades, printing, writing, merchandising, and eventually became a riverboat pilot on the Mississippi. When the Civil War broke out, I joined up with the South, being a patriotic youth, but I did not stay a soldier too long. I liked the way I looked in a fancy uniform. Marching and practicing were okay, but I made a point of telling my troops we're going to practice retreating if we're going to do anything right on this. Then I learned an important point. Never march to a battlefield where the vultures look overfed. As the march to our first battle commenced, I had the misfortune to get sidetracked by a wonderful, beautiful flower on the side, and when I went down and picked it, my sleeve got caught and torn. Oh, nuts. So I returned to camp to change my shirt. I missed the entire firefight, but later saw buzzards circling the far field. So I went west on the overland stage to seek my fortune in the civil land of the Nevada Territory. I eventually settled in Virginia City, which was a good place for a man to lose his religion. But by that time I got there, I had already lost it. There were wide open gambling places, murders, street fights, riots, a whiskey mill every 16 steps, a half dozen jails, and some talk about building a church. It was no place for a Presbyterian, and I did not stay one for long. I then left Virginia City and went to San Francisco, where I became unemployed, and I spent a considerable amount of time looking for a job. But this was very difficult, as I really didn't want to do any actual work. But then Lady Luck happened to smile on me, and I was given a post on the Sacramento Union as their special correspondent to the Sandwich Islands. Well, our first stop was Honolulu. I was naturally anxious to fully explore this dreary and enchanted land. They told me the best way to do it was to hire a horse. Well, I had some unpleasant experiences with these unpredictable creatures before in Carson City. I once made the mistake of buying a genuine thoroughbred on the advice of a man I found out later was the auctioneer's brother. Soon I mounted that horse. He put all his feet together in a bunch, lowered his back, and shot me straight up into the air 4 to 5 feet. I came down again and landed in the saddle, shot me up again. This time came down almost on the saddle horn, which is a little too much variety for me. I decided to get off, but then I was in the air again, and before I could find out which way to go, the thoroughbred horse was gone, and I landed in the mud. I got myself up off the ground, and I made up my mind that if the auctioneer's brother's funeral took place while I was in Carson City, I'd postpone all recreation and attend it. Well, experiences like that increase a man's respect for dumb animals. So in Honolulu, I ruled out a fast horse and wanted a safe one. I asked for an exceptionally gentle horse, one with no spirit whatsoever, a lame one at that. Well, then they showed me an animal that looked like it wanted to lean up against something. So I chose him. He went along peaceably enough, so absorbed in meditation. As I walked with him, it began to worry me. I thought to myself that this horse is planning some outrage. No horse ever thought over a subject so profoundly just for nothing. The more it preyed on my mind, the more frightened I got, and the more I rode, the more worried I became for my life. Finally, I just dismounted to see if there was anything wild in his eyes. I can't tell you what a relief it was to find that he had only fallen asleep. Around noon, I spurred my animated trance along a stretch of sandy beach where I noticed a bevy of nude young native ladies bathing in the sea. Now this was the sort of local color I was after for my newspaper. So I went down and sat on their clothes, so to keep them from getting stolen. And then I begged them to come out, for it seemed to me that the sea was rising, and I was satisfied they were running some risk. But they went right on with their sports, circuit races and splashing around. It was a heartwarming spectacle. When I finally turned around to leave, I was surprised to find the horse had fallen asleep again. Which goes to show that there is a difference between a man and a horse. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot rely on him to gather the news. I once interviewed the king of the Sandwich Islands, and he said, yes,